The federal government says it has spent about 6 trillion naira on oil subsidy between 2017 and 2021. These figures were disclosed at the House of Representatives investigative hearing on the subsidy regime. Deputy Speaker of the House, Ahmed Wasey, laments the inconsistency in information regarding government spending on subsidy. He says the ad hoc committee was set up to get to the root of the matter. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, told the committee that none of its members were involved in the diversion of petroleum product.
Well, Chinedu Okoronkwo said any marketer found guilty of diversion of products should be treated as a criminal. He accused some petrol depots of selling fuel for 158 naira per litre instead of the government-approved price of 148 naira. The IPMAN president said this is responsible for the hike in pump price across the country.
Having known the quantum of money that has been spent so far between 2017 and 2017 and 2022, so far 2021. 4.9 trillion is assumed to have been expended under this regime for the purpose of petroleum subsidy. And if you are to get the quantum of the estimation today, what is assumed to have been expended is 6 trillion naira. So the money expended assumed is quite very much, it's humongous, and I want to believe that in the spirit of accountability, without any attempt to malign anybody.
This subsidy is not for marketers, it's for the masses, and they should enjoy it. I think that is the key thing. This allegation keep coming every time. It's allegation now. We have police, we have navy, we have civil defense. And our license is within the confines of this country. Any other thing outside this Nigeria, the person should be treated as such, like the common criminal. He's not our member anyway.
We are here mandated to go into records of some of the challenging issues bedeviling this country. You can agree with me that now, even you, as you listen to Nigerians, they always talk about this issue of subsidy. Why? Because of the attendant humongous amounts involved in a nation that has about 13 billion and spending a colossal sum of 4 trillion, 13 trillion, spending a colossal sum of 4 trillion to service subsidy. Whereas there are other critical sectors. Just as we are seated here, we witness one, power outage.
Well, to interrogate the fuel subsidy payment further, we are joined from our Lagos studio by Femi Oladehin, an economist and investment banker.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And it looks like we're going in circles.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening. To go or not to go has been the major debate. But tonight, when you hear 6.7 trillion naira for 2023 subsidy alone, this is costly. How long can the Nigeria economy survive payment of subsidy, and where will this money come from?
Okay, so let me give you a very interesting analogy that has played out in the last few months in the world. So we all know what has happened in Sri Lanka, and at some point the leaders of Sri Lanka said Sri Lanka was bankrupt. Whether the CBN and the policymakers in Nigeria accept it or not, Nigeria is teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. And subsidy payment is probably one of the biggest triggers of that. You have to understand that the thoughts behind the subsidy payments or the subsidies themselves, as noble as they are, when you have the kind of environment that we've had with the COVID challenges, as well as the Russian war, which has meant crude oil has traded above $100 for over 6 months on stretch. The reality is that the quantum of money that we keep spending on subsidy will continue to rise. and it has risen to unsustainable levels. When the government made the decision in 2021 to extend the subsidies for another 18 months, a lot of us who saw the fact that we were kicking a very important can down the road, we cried. But you know, the government makes political decisions at the expense of economic growth, and it's the reason why we're where we are today. Subsidy payments across board need to go, and so that the citizens can actually benefit from the economic activities that are going on in Nigeria. The reality is that most of the growth that we've seen in the market in the last 2 years has been frittered away by this subsidy payment, and something has to be done about it. Now, I understand the government is very concerned about inflation, but there are easier ways to do this than to continue to pay these subsidy payments.
All right, and those easier ways are what we're curious to find out, because on the issue, I mean, Zainab Ahmed, the finance minister, has said, look, urgent action is, required to address revenue underperformance and expenditure efficiency at national and sub-national levels. Exactly what are the measures or strategies or moves that need to be made both at the federal and, state levels?
So, and one of the things that I've been an economist in this country for 30 plus years, and one of the things that we've always said that's been consistent is policy inconsistencies. When investors and people who put money in your economy cannot predict what you're going to do as a government, then you are jeopardizing the overall behavior of that economy. Let me give you a classic example. The government has been trying to sell some power assets, and yesterday, probably even today, the House of Rep came out with an announcement basically canceling that process. Now, the truth is that even when you're developing economic policy, the consistency of your policies means that people who are trying to help you grow your economy, that's investors and people who create jobs, who develop your assets, they can plan for the long term. When you have policy inconsistencies, you create an uncertain environment, and add that uncertain environment to the security challenges that we've had as a country, you're just creating a potpourri of disaster, basically. Now, the first thing the government needs to be able to do is to let the citizens understand that the subsidy has to go. Now, for you to be able to justifiably tell citizens that they would pay more for petrol, you have to promise and deliver to them other services that can reduce their spend. So in the first place, if I'm sending my children to private schools, I'm paying extra money for diesel when I could have 24/7 power from the grid. If you don't do all of those things, removing the subsidy becomes more difficult. But if we take a policy approach to it and saying there are certain socioeconomic investments that we need to make as a country, we focus on making those investments. When fuel prices go up, people are able to adjust accordingly. But if I'm still providing petrol for my own generator or buying diesel to fund power in my house, and I'm paying over the tops for private hospitals, it's difficult for you to convince me that you're making a decision that benefits me when you remove the subsidy on petroleum. So I think that what the government needs to focus on is to come up with a holistic solution that ensures that, yes, we can produce the petrol that we consume first, and then secondly, the savings from those investments, that it will go to actually bettering the life of the average Nigerian. That is something that the governments have not been able to do for the past 30 years. And that's the reason why we're still having a subsidy conversation in 2022 going into 2023.
Right. Well, thank you so much. That's a good place to leave it, the conversation tonight. Policy somersault and attracting investment to the sector. We do appreciate your time on the news tonight.